I'm writing this from my hotel room on what should have been my wedding night. My new wife is sleeping in our bed while I'm on the couch, and I can't stop replaying the moment that destroyed everything. But let me start where it really began. Not at the altar, but 2 years ago when I made the decision that would poison every good thing in my life. Her name was Elena. My fiancée was Jessica, and I was the kind of man who thought I could have both. Jessica and I had been together for 6 years. High school sweethearts who survived college, long distance, career changes, all of it. She was everything good about my life. Patient when I was stressed about work, supportive when I wanted to change careers. The kind of woman who remembered your mom's birthday and actually cared about your dreams. We got engaged on a beach in Maine. I'd planned it for months, saved for the ring, practiced the speech. When she said yes, tears streaming down her face, I felt like I'd won the lottery. That should have been enough. But I've always been the kind of person who looks at a perfect meal and wonders what dessert tastes like. Elena started at my company in January, 2 months after the proposal. Marketing coordinator, fresh out of grad school, the kind of energy that makes everyone else feel half dead. She was assigned to work on a project with my team, and from day one, she treated me differently than everyone else. Not flirting, exactly. Just attention. She'd ask my opinion first in meetings, laugh a little too hard at my jokes, stay late when I was working late, even when her part was finished. "Your fiancé is lucky," she said one night around 9 p.m. Both of us the last ones in the office. "Why is that?" "You're the kind of guy who really cares about getting things right." That's rare. It was such a simple compliment, but it hit something in me that Jessica's love hadn't touched in years. Jessica knew I cared about getting things right. She'd lived with my perfectionist tendencies for 6 years. It wasn't new or exciting to her anymore. But to Elena, it was worth noticing. The emotional affair started so gradually I convinced myself it wasn't happening. Longer conversations by the coffee machine, texting about work projects that somehow turned personal, grabbing lunch together because we were both hungry at the same time. Jessica noticed before I admitted it to myself. "You seem different lately," she said one evening while we were planning seating charts for the wedding. "Different how?" "Happier. More energetic. Like you're excited about something." I was excited. For the first time in years, I was looking forward to going to work. But I couldn't tell her that without explaining why. "Maybe it's just the new project at work," I said. Jessica smiled and squeezed my hand. "I'm glad you're enjoying it. You deserve to love what you do." I'd proven my father right about who I really was underneath all the lies I told myself. The divorce papers came 6 weeks later. Jessica had found a shark of a lawyer who made sure I understood exactly how much my affair was going to cost me. The house, half my savings, most of our friends, all of my self-respect. Dad called me the day the papers were served. "Heard Jessica filed," he said. "Yeah. Good for her. She deserves better than a cheater. Thanks for the support, Dad." "You want support? Stop shitting on women who love you. I raised you better than this." He hung up, and I realized that was the last real conversation we'd ever have. Elena and I tried to make it work after the divorce. Turns out, relationships built on lies and betrayal don't have strong foundations. She left me for her personal trainer 8 months later. "Now you know how it feels," she said when I found out. I did know how it feels. It feels like drowning while everyone who loved you watches from shore, too disappointed to throw you a rope. Jessica remarried 2 years later. I heard about it through mutual friends who made sure I understood I wasn't invited. She looked radiant in the photos that somehow made their way to my social media. Her new husband looked at her the way I should have but never did. Like she was the only woman in the world. Their wedding was small and intimate. No dramatic toasts. No hidden affairs. No groom checking his phone for texts from his mistress. Just two people who chose each other completely. I think about that night in the hotel room sometimes. The moment Jessica asked who Elena was and I had to choose between one more lie and the truth that would end everything. I chose the truth, but only because I was too tired to keep lying. If I'd had more energy, more creativity, more skill at deception, I might have kept both women on the hook indefinitely. I might have spent years living a double life, might have had children with Jessica while sneaking around with Elena, might have died old and respected while hiding the rot inside. Instead, Dad's toast exposed me for what I really was, and Jessica's question finished the job. Sometimes I wonder if that's worse or better. Whether it's more merciful to have your lies exposed quickly or to live with them forever. Then I remember Jessica's face when she realized she'd married a stranger, and I know the answer. The truth is always better, even when it destroys everything. Especially when it destroys everything. Because some things deserve to be destroyed. Harder. I'll save you the trouble. What you want is to have both of us. To keep me as the safe, reliable wife who takes care of you, and her as the exciting side piece who makes you feel special. She was right. That was exactly what I wanted. You wanted to eat your cake and have it too, she continued. But here's the thing about cake, sweetheart. Once you've eaten it, it's gone. She walked to her suitcase, still packed from our honeymoon that would never happen. What are you doing? I'm leaving. Tonight. Right now. Jessica, wait. We can talk about this. Work through it. Work through what? Your affair? Your lies? The fact that you married me while in love with someone else? She was throwing clothes into her bag now, not bothering to fold them. We can go to counseling. I lend things with Elena. We can start over. Jessica stopped packing and looked at me with something that might have been pity. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about Elena. This is about who you are. The kind of man who could do this to someone who loves him. People make mistakes. Mistakes? Her voice rose for the first time. A mistake is forgetting to call when you're running late. A mistake is double booking dinner plans. What you did was make a choice. Every day for 4 months, you chose to betray me. She zipped her suitcase and headed for the door. Where will you go? My sister's. Then I'll figure out the rest. What about the honeymoon? The tickets are non-refundable. Jessica turned back to look at me, and her expression was so cold I barely recognized her. Take Elena. I'm sure she'd love a romantic getaway paid for with my trust fund. After she left, I sat alone in that hotel room surrounded by symbols of the love I'd just destroyed. Rose petals, champagne, chocolate-covered strawberries, all of it mocking me now. I called Elena. How did it go? She asked, like this had all been part of some plan. She left me. Good. Now we can be together for real. But sitting in that empty honeymoon suite, I realized something that should have been obvious from the start. I didn't want Elena anymore. I wanted Jessica. Wanted the life we'd planned, the future we'd built, the love I'd taken for granted. I think I made a mistake, I told Elena. You made a mistake by marrying her in the first place. No. I made a mistake by cheating on her with you. The silence on Elena's end stretched long enough for me to understand that she'd never really cared about me either. She'd cared about winning. About proving she could take a man away from his fiancée. Come over, she said finally. You're upset. You're not thinking clearly. But I was thinking clearly. For the first time in months, I was seeing everything exactly as it was. I've destroyed the best relationship of my life for someone who saw me as a trophy. I've humiliated the woman I loved in front of everyone who mattered to us. Who is Elena? She asked for the third time. The lies were right there, ready to deploy. Work colleague. Old friend. Wrong number. But something about the way Jessica was looking at me, like she could see straight through to my rotten core, made the words die in my throat. She works at my company, I said finally. That's not what I asked. Jessica walked closer, her wedding makeup smudged from crying, still beautiful even in her hurt and suspicion. Are you sleeping with her? The question hung between us like a noose. I could have said no. Should have said no. Instead, I looked at my wife of 12 hours and nodded. Jessica didn't scream, didn't throw anything, didn't collapse dramatically like in movies. She just sat down on the edge of our honeymoon bed and stared at her hands. How long? She asked quietly. 4 months. 4 months. She repeated it like she was testing how the words tasted. Since we sent out the invitations. Jessica, I can explain. Explain what? How you let me plan our entire wedding while you were having an affair. How you stood at that altar today and lied to my face in front of everyone we love. I had no answer for that. Because there was no answer that would make any of this okay. Was she there tonight? Jessica asked. At our wedding? I wanted to lie, but I was tired of lying. Exhausted by it. Yes. Jessica laughed, but it sounded like breaking glass. She watched you marry me. She sat in our reception hall and watched me dance with you while knowing you were going home with me but thinking about her. It's not like that. What's it like then? Help me understand how you could do this. I tried to find words that would explain the inexplicable. How I'd love 2 women at once. How I'd convinced myself I could have both. How I'd been too weak to choose and too selfish to let either one go. I love you both, I said. and immediately knew it was the worst possible thing to say. Jessica's face went completely white. "You love us both," she repeated. "You stood up there today and promised to forsake all others, and you love us both." "Jessica, do you hear yourself? Do you understand what you're telling me?" I was telling her that her love hadn't been enough, that our 6 years together, our shared dreams, our carefully planned future weren't enough to keep me faithful. I was telling her that on the day she trusted me most completely, I was already planning to betray her again. "I think I need to leave," I said, because I couldn't stand the way she was looking at me. "You think you need to leave," she said slowly, "on our wedding night, because you're in love with your mistress." Hearing it said out loud like that made it sound as ugly as it actually was. "I need time to think." "Time to think about what? Whether you want to be married to me or to her?" "Time to figure out what I want." Jessica stood up then, and when she spoke, her voice was different. Jessica started crying then. Not the happy tears from earlier, but the kind of crying that comes from deep hurt and growing realization. "Something's wrong," she said. "Has been wrong for months. I thought it was wedding stress, but that's not it, is it?" My phone buzzed with a text. "Elena, congratulations on your special day. Call me when you're ready to stop pretending." Jessica saw me check it. "Who's texting you at midnight on our wedding night?" "Work thing. I'll deal with it tomorrow." But Jessica was already reaching for my phone. I pulled it away instinctively, which was the worst possible response. "Let me see it," she said quietly. "It's nothing important." "Then let me see it." We stared at each other across that hotel room, and I realized this was the moment. The moment when everything I'd built on lies finally collapsed. I could hand her the phone and confess everything. The affair, the lies, the fact that I'd married her while in love with someone else. Or I could keep lying and hope Elena would eventually disappear. I chose to keep lying. "It's a work emergency. I'll handle it in the morning." Jessica looked at me for a long moment, then started taking off her jewelry. Each piece carefully removed and placed on the dresser like she was dismantling something precious. "I'm going to take a shower," she said. "When I come out, maybe you'll be ready to tell me what's really going on." After she disappeared into the bathroom, I sat on that hotel bed surrounded by rose petals and read Delena's text again. My phone rang. "Delena, congratulations," she said when I answered. "What are you doing? How did you get invited to my wedding?" "I know people. Besides, I wanted to see you commit yourself to a lodge." "Elena, this has to stop." "Does it?" "Because from where I was sitting, it looked like the universe was trying to tell you something. My father is grieving. He made a mistake." "Did he? Or did he say what everyone in that room was thinking?" I could hear Jessica in the shower, probably crying where I couldn't see her. "I can't do this anymore," I said. "Good. Then don't. Leave her. We can be together for real. I just married her. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. It's not too late to fix it." Elena was right about one thing. I had made a mistake. But it wasn't marrying Jessica. It was answering that phone call. Because Jessica had finished her shower and was standing in the bathroom doorway in her robe, staring at me with the kind of expression that comes right before your entire world changes. "Who is Elena?" she asked in a voice I'd never heard before. And I realized that Dad's toast hadn't ruined my wedding. I had ruined it myself months ago. The toast was just the moment everyone else found out. Jessica stood in the bathroom doorway like a judge waiting for my verdict. The hotel room felt smaller suddenly, the rose petals on our bed looking like evidence of a crime I had committed against both of us. We returned to the reception and tried to salvage the evening. The band kept playing. People kept dancing. But there was an awkwardness hanging over everything now, like everyone was trying too hard to pretend they hadn't witnessed something deeply uncomfortable. I spent the rest of the night watching Jessica force smiles while relatives made awkward small talk, pretending they hadn't just heard my father essentially said she wasn't good enough. But the worst part was seeing Elena. She'd positioned herself at a table near the back, nursing a glass of wine and watching everything unfold with barely concealed satisfaction. When our eyes met across the dance floor, she raised her glass slightly in what looked like a toast. To what? My humiliation? Jessica's pain? The chaos that was about to consume my life? I wanted to march over and demand to know how she'd gotten invited, what she thought she was doing there. But I couldn't leave Jessica's side without raising more questions. The evening limped toward its end. We cut the cake while photographers captured Jessica's forced joy. We had our last dance while I tried not to look toward Elena's table. During the final hour, Dad approached us during a quiet moment. "I hope you kids have a wonderful honeymoon," he said, kissing Jessica's cheek like nothing had happened. "Dad," I started. but he'd already moved on to saying goodbye to other relatives. As guests began leaving, Elena walked past our table. "Beautiful ceremony," she said to Jessica with a smile that looked genuine if you didn't know better. "You look absolutely radiant." "Thank you," Jessica replied, because she was too polite to do anything else. Elena's eyes met mine for just a second. "I hope you'll be very happy together," she said, and I heard the question buried in those words. Will you? Will you really be happy with her when you know what we have?" After the last guest left, Jessica and I finally made it to our hotel suite. The one we'd splurged on, with champagne waiting and rose petals on the bed. All the romantic touches that now felt like props in a play neither of us wanted to perform. Jessica sat on the edge of the bed, still in her wedding dress, staring at nothing. "I keep thinking about what your dad said," she finally spoke. "Jess, please. Don't let his confusion ruin our day." Was it confusion? She looked at me with those clear eyes that had always seen through my lies. Or does he really think I'm not right for you? I should have reassured her. Should have held her and promised that Dad's opinion didn't matter, that I chose her, that she was perfect. Instead, I said nothing. Because Elena's promise was echoing in my head, and I was thinking about her sitting in that reception hall, watching my marriage begin with public humiliation. "You're being quiet," Jessica observed. "I'm tired. It's been a long day. Our wedding day." "I know what day it is." Jessica's face had gone pale. Her hand found mine under the table, squeezing tight with confusion and growing horror. "Emma taught my son what real love looks like. The kind that doesn't waver when things get hard. The kind that doesn't look for something better when what you have is already perfect." The room was dead silent now. Even the catering staff had stopped moving. "So here's to Emma, wherever she is now. Thank you for showing my son what he should be looking for in a partner. And here's to Jessica, for..." Dad paused, seeming to realize something was wrong. For being here today." He raised his glass with a confused smile, like he couldn't understand why no one else was drinking. I looked at Jessica, whose eyes were filling with tears that had nothing to do with joy. Then I looked across the room and saw Elena, who had somehow gotten herself invited as someone's +1. She was smiling. The aftermath was worse than the moment itself. The silence after Dad's toast felt like it lasted forever. 150 people staring at the man who just humiliated his son's bride on her wedding day. Jessica's grip on my hand was so tight I thought she might break my fingers. Then someone, bless them, started clapping. Slow, confused applause that spread through the room like people weren't sure what else to do. Dad sat down looking pleased with himself, completely oblivious to what he'd just done. Jessica excused herself to the bathroom. I followed, catching her just as she reached the bridal suite. "What the hell was that?" she whispered, her voice shaking. "I have no idea. Dad's been different since Mom died. Maybe he got confused?" It was a weak excuse and we both knew it. Dad might have been struggling with grief, but he wasn't senile. He knew exactly who Emma was and exactly what he was saying. He talked about her like she was some perfect woman who got away. Like I'm just settling. You're not settling. Dad doesn't even know you that well. He's barely visited since Mom's funeral. Jessica stared at herself in the mirror, touching up mascara that had smudged with almost tears. "Your father just told our entire wedding that you should have married someone else." "He didn't say that." "He might as well have." She turned to face me. "Who is Emma?" Really? The question I'd been dreading. Because Emma hadn't just been my high school girlfriend. She'd been my first love. The one who set the standard for every relationship after. The one Dad had genuinely adored, who'd become like a daughter to him during the 2 years we dated. Emma, who'd broken up with me senior year because she'd caught me kissing another girl at a party. She was important to me, I admitted. Dad loved her like family. "I think he's just been thinking about the past a lot since Mom died." Jessica nodded like this explanation made sense, but I could see doubt creeping into her eyes. "After the wedding, I told Elena, give me a year to figure things out. Then we can be together for real." Elena smiled like I just proposed to her instead of asking her to be my secret mistress indefinitely. "I'll wait," she said. "But you have to promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you'll think about me on your wedding day. Promise me you'll remember who you really love." I promised. Because I was weak and selfish and convinced I could have everything I wanted without consequences. The wedding day arrived like a freight train I'd been watching approach for months. Jessica looked radiant getting ready, surrounded by her sisters and best friends. Her dress was perfect, her makeup flawless, her smile bright enough to power the whole venue. "I can't believe we're actually doing this," she said, squeezing my hands during our first look photos. "Best decision I ever made," I lied, thinking about Elena's promise and hating myself for it. The ceremony was beautiful. Jessica's vows made people cry. Mine were carefully crafted lies about forever and faithfulness and being the luckiest man alive. When the officiant said you may kiss the bride, I kissed my wife while thinking about my lover. The reception was everything Jessica had dreamed of. Good food, great music, all our favorite people celebrating our love. Dad had flown in from Arizona, where he'd moved after retirement. He'd been distant since Mom died 3 years ago, but he seemed happy to be there. Your mother would have loved this, he told Jessica during the father-daughter dance he'd volunteered for since her dad had passed when she was in college. Jessica started crying happy tears, and I felt something crack inside my chest. Then came the toasts. Jessica's maid of honor went first. Funny stories about college, sweet memories about our early dating years, genuine love for both of us. My best man followed with embarrassing stories from our fraternity days and sincere wishes for our future. Then Dad stood up. I'd like to say a few words about my son, he began, and I felt that familiar surge of pride. Dad wasn't big on emotional displays, but when he chose to speak, it meant something. When my son was in high school, he brought home a girl named Emma. She was smart, funny, kind to everyone she met. She helped my wife in the kitchen without being asked. She remembered my birthday. She made my son want to be a better person. My blood went cold. Emma was my high school girlfriend. We dated for 2 years, broken up senior year when we went to different colleges. Dad continued, oblivious to the confusion spreading across the room. Emma understood that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice you make every day. To be honest, to be faithful, to put someone else's needs alongside your own. She brought out the best in my son, and I always hoped he'd find someone like her again. The guilt should have stopped me right there. Jessica celebrating my happiness while I was getting that happiness from another woman. But instead of pulling back, I used her trust as permission to go deeper. The first time Elena and I kissed, it was in the parking garage after a company happy hour. I'd had 3 beers, just enough to quiet the voice in my head that knew this was wrong. I've been wanting to do that for weeks, she whispered against my lips. Elena, I can't. I'm engaged. I know, she said. But you wanted it too. She was right. I had wanted it. Had been thinking about it during boring meetings and quiet dinners with Jessica and while picking out wedding flowers. This can't happen again, I told her. Of course not, she agreed. It happened again 3 days later. The physical affair lasted 4 months. Hotel rooms during lunch breaks. Her apartment when Jessica thought I was working late. Weekend work conferences that were really weekend getaways. I became an expert liar. Deleting texts, clearing browser history, showering before coming home. Creating elaborate stories about deadlines and difficult clients. Jessica never suspected a thing. She was too busy planning our wedding, too trusting, too in love with the man she thought I was. The worst part wasn't the lying. It was how easy it became. How natural it felt to live 2 completely separate lives. To kiss Jessica goodbye in the morning and spend my lunch hour in Elena's bed. To help Jessica address wedding invitations while texting Elena about when we could be together next. I felt invincible. Like I was getting away with a perfect crime. The wedding was set for June. By April, I was planning to break up with Elena after the honeymoon. I'd convinced myself this was just pre-wedding jitters, a last hurrah before settling down. Jessica would never know, Elena would find someone else, and I'd have gotten it out of my system. But Elena had different plans. I love you, she said one afternoon in May, lying in her bed with sunlight streaming through the windows. The words hit me like ice water. Love wasn't supposed to be part of this. Elena, I know you love me too. I see it in how you look at me. How you touch me. I did love her. That was the problem. Somewhere between the stolen lunches and secret kisses, I'd fallen completely for this woman who wasn't my fiancée. I'm getting married in 6 weeks, I said weakly. To someone you don't love the way you love me. She was right about that too. What I felt for Elena was fire and electricity and obsession. What I felt for Jessica was comfort and history and the safety of the known. But I was too much of a coward to call off the wedding. Too afraid of the questions, the disappointed families, the deposits we'd lose. Too terrified of admitting I'd been living a lie for months. So I made the worst decision of my life. I chose to keep lying.